Well, welcome back to the second episode of the F1 starting grid for 2024. Good to have you with us. Chad, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. We're committed. I for those of us that are on the West Coast, it's a little early for our podcast this morning, but I'm up and at 'em. My wife said, "Wow, you're committed." There last night when I told her I was getting up, but um, it's F1 season. You got to be committed, right?
Right, right. Yeah, and looking at the calendar coming up, some of these races we've enjoyed the Saturday races in the Middle East and next race in Australia, which for you not too bad, 9 p.m. on a Saturday, but for me it's a midnight race and qualifying sessions like 3 in the morning East Coast time. So hey, the sacrifices we make for Formula One, right?
Right, right. That's that. I kind of laughed when she said that because I was like, "Little do you know that I'm up in the middle of the night watching Formula One." But
Right. Yeah, I imagine that there's those who watch the recording later, and then there's those like I gotta watch it live. I'm a part of a couple of group ch- uh, group chats, texts, and I always have to make sure to watch the races, if not live, as soon as possible, just to avoid the spoilers. Right, where I have to mute my
right.
phone and because we're just all eager about the season. Well, we had a great race on Saturday. What are your initial thoughts? What did you think?
Yeah, it was a good race. I'm trying to stay engaged, in terms of the championship itself. It's hard to not get a little concerned with, Max Verstappen and Red Bull's dominance again.
Right,
Um, and I know it's not just about that, and we're for sure going to talk about other stuff down the grid, but man, it's just crazy to see his dominance still, and Red Bull
right.
just continue to push forward.
Yeah,
Um, but overall, I thought it was a great race. I mean, I love the track. It always is fun. It's fast track. Um, so yeah, I thought it was great. How about yourself?
oh, same thing. Jeddah it is super fast. No room for error, as both Zhou Guanyu in practice and then Lance Stroll in the race itself found out. Like you clip one of those corners, you just cut it too tight, and you're in the wall. Like there's no
Right.
forgiveness. But I thought it was engaging race. I think thinking back to some races last year where it's a bit of a snooze fest. There was some really good mid-pack racing, midfield racing,
Yeah.
some good action, some good strategic calls. No, I found it to be super entertaining, a lot of fun, and like you're saying, Red Bull's out in front. Max, of course, again, just doing what Max does and running his own race. Which is funny. I don't know if you heard this, but he had been up the night before playing sim
It did.
racing
It did.
like till like 4 a.m. I know if it was like before quali or before the actual race, or maybe even both. But he's like, "All right, guys, I got to go to bed," and then he gets out there and does what he does. Saw a really great meme that said, that Max has a sim racing career and has Formula One on the side as a hobby, and it just yeah, he's just love him or not, he is next level, and you know it is what it is. He ran a great race. He got to see the back of a car for the first time in a while
Yeah.
during a race
Yeah.
with Lando Norris leading for a few laps there, but yeah, it was
Right. Right.
good.
Yeah. I agree. And yeah, it's wild. Getting up or staying up late and hopping in the car. You're like, yeah, what are you doing, man? Like, and it's not like he's like, not peak performance, or I mean, it's just wild, like how much extra he potentially has in him to
Yeah,
do that kind of stuff.
yeah, no, we're watching history being made, as so many have said before. um I think a little bit more drama this weekend, a little conjecture with Jos Verstappen having some conversation with Toto, and people wondering what that's all about, and a lot of rumors and speculation about whether or not Max could end up going to Mercedes.
Right.
um which I don't imagine there's a team on the grid that wouldn't give their right arm to have Max drive for them.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see how that plays out over the season.
Yeah, it's all speculation, of course, and I mean, that's that's a lot of what podcasting does, right? Um,
Right.
but it's like, yeah, and I just wonder how much of that is Max and just doesn't want to say it, in public, and so his dad is. How much of that is just an overzealous dad, that's enjoying a little limelight himself.
Sure. Sure.
It's not like he's his manager or something like that.
Right.
So I have no idea. I mean, how much credibility, but also at the same time, how much like grain of salt you take it. You're like I just don't know if it's just like yeah, it's
Right.
weird. Yeah.
No, it is. It is. Well, let's go back to the racing. So, a couple of things that I noted from the race. Big thing this last race, huge news. Carlos signs out with appendicitis and
Oh, buddy.
last minute surgery, and Ollie Bearman hopping in, being called up from F2, qualifies in pole position for the feature race for F2, and then gets yanked into Formula One. Man, one qualifying session and right into, I mean, one practice session, then right into qualifying. Amazing performance. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of podcasting and a lot of just other pundits just talk about it. I mean, some people are like very high on Ollie, some aren't, and there's a lot of people that were relating back to what's the McLaren driver that got replaced
Oh,
oh last year. Why am I blanking on his name? De Vries, not McLaren. Sorry, not he was with
yeah.
Alpha.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
not different team.
Nick DeFries. Yeah.
Um,
I'll,
Nick De
but
Vries, just kind of when he came in, different, right? Didn't he come in and have a great qualifying too?
he did. He
Yeah,
did. Yeah. He seemed really promising and then didn't work
it
out that
didn't.
way.
So
I think the pressure, I think the on-ramp for Nick DeVries was a little bit longer. I think the thing with Behrman is, man, one practice session in one of the hardest tracks to drive.
totally
And then you just see the jump between F2 and F1. Like it's just a different league. You are, it's a whole different world. There was a really great video, in fact, of Behrman comparing his head movement in the car from
right.
the beginning of the race to the end of the race. And by the end of the race, he looks like a rag doll. Just his head is just bouncing back and forth. Because he's just not prepared for the
Totally.
level of racing. And yet qualifies 11th and then manages to pull out a seventh place finish, which, it's again speculation. That's what we do on these shows, and all of the podcasts, all of the commentators are wondering, could he be? But I think we have so many great drivers in development and on the grid right now. But it was just a great performance. Micah and I were actually chatting before the race, and he asked me, he's like, "Okay, who do you think is going to DNF this for this race?" And I honestly thought that Bierman wouldn't finish. I thought he would
Mm,
make a mistake and be in the
interesting.
wall. So I was impressed. I was impressed with his run.
Yeah, I was impressed as well. I think yeah, to your point, just coming in. I mean, a good car. Granted, he
Yes,
had a good car. Fast car. So came in with that, did well. He's battling some guys. I think I read somewhere that the leadership was like, just don't crash the car, take it easy. Uh, Especially
right.
there. And right away, he's taking some calculated real like lunges and fighting. And so
Mm,
he wasn't just sitting around, which
no,
I mean could have gone horribly or it could have
it could
it
have
did
been.
go
It
great.
could have. Well, and
But
I mean, team orders in a case like that it's a big deal. Like, don't crash the car is a really big deal, especially on a track like this,
right.
because that's just a lot of money out the window. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
But yeah, I mean,
I
like, just how he fought. I mean, what did he say? He only missed out on Q3 by what is it, 36 thousandths of a second,
yeah,
over
the
Hamilton,
barely missed it.
over Hamilton though. So,
Right.
I mean, just coming in being one of the youngest, guys to come in like that, and and then taking out Hamilton. I mean, he's got to feel good about himself,
Yeah. Well,
and
and
it's
and
pretty
being
good.
in front of Lando Norris, albeit those guys were starting to breathe down his throat a little bit there at the end. That would have
Yep.
been a little nerve-wracking moment, but yeah, overall it was a good weekend for Ferrari. Another podium for them, third place podium finish, and happy to see Leclerc. Uh, I know he wants to be further ahead than that. Also another great weekend for Sergio Perez. Like,
Hmm.
he's not like the end of last season, he kept consistently ending up like mid pack, and you know, second weekend where he's on the podium. Good race from him.
Yeah, yeah. I was reading again another article about him, and um, I think just his different mindset this year.
Yeah,
And he's done a lot of work in the off season. I think trying to work on just it sounded like last year he was chasing Max so much in terms of like trying to dial in the car to be specific to how Max had it set up. And I think trying to chase whatever he was doing to get the most time, and it was actually causing him to be slower.
yeah,
So I was reading that it just like he had really been working to just like be himself, just come in a race. And be interesting to see if he is closer to Max in the end in the championship, as opposed to last year, maybe how he was a lot closer at the top and then just started to spiral
yeah.
pretty rapidly. I don't know that I would say he's got a real chance of being a title contender, but
No,
um, but maybe he'll stay a little closer and
I
then won't
yeah.
feel like it.
I don't think anyone has a chance of being a title contender. If we're just honest, unless Max Search just something goes horribly wrong with his car, or he just starts making mistakes, which it's just not going to happen.
Right.
He's not even in a place. I mean, I know we're back to Max again, but the crazy thing is he's not even in a place where he's getting caught up in first corner accidents, because he's already so far out ahead by the first corner. It's like it's just a moot point for him.
Yeah.
But Perez, that's way more of a concern, is getting tangled up in we saw that last season. When you're running a little further back, you're
Right.
risking, especially on the restarts. It's risky. Hey, another Saudi Arabia Grand Prix with a safety car. That just Yeah, I think every race so far has had one, and this year, same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Lance Stroll.
Yeah, that was a bummer. I felt bad for him. That was the commentary. His engineer coming over and saying, "Hey, can you get it back to the pit?"
It's like, no.
No,
Uh,
yeah, it's so funny.
but
Also,
I think the commentary, I don't know which one you were listening to. I think David Coulthard was
mm,
on the one that I was on. I don't remember if I was listening to the Sky or the global feed, but it was funny because he was trying to like kind of give a little like, hey, the engineers, they're not watching the live feed, so they're just watching the telemetry, and they don't know
right.
what's going on, and trying to give him a little bit of love on that. But man, he came around that corner, and they were just like, what in the world? How
Yeah.
do you do that? And then, they went back watching the replay, and it was just clip that wall.
Oh,
And again, I think David Coulthard, he ended up saying like, that happens all the time, but he goes, but he's not a rookie.
no.
He made a very specific point to say like, but he's not a rookie, and so I think just kind of showing like that's
Hmm.
kind of a rookie move right there. Everybody does have their moments of hitting that wall, but where he hit it, I think his
Right.
perspective was that's he shouldn't be doing that.
No. But there's this part, like when you're running in a place like Lance is, where Alonso is outperforming him further down the track. That's where
Mhm.
that experience, and you think like Stroll's just got to be going, I've got to put it out there. I've just got to
Yeah,
push a little bit harder. And you go past that corner dozens of times over the course of the weekend between practice and qualifying and then into the race. And you think, hey, I've got this. But we talked about this in the last episode, the effect of wind on these drivers. Um, this is another track where the wind
Right.
plays an important role, and just a side gust of wind, could I'm not saying that's what happened here, but can affect those tolerances so much. And of course, Monaco is another track where we see that where I think Leclerc put it in, did a similar thing. Also an experienced driver, but you're just
Yeah.
right on that ragged edge. And yeah, bummer for him. But one restart in the race after the safety car. Um, but I think bunching that pack up after the safety car, and it was pretty early in the race, but man, the midfield battle this week was awesome.
Right.
That's where the race was.
Mhm.
It was fun to see.
I agree, I agree, and I mean, that you have to take solace in that, right? And you have to, I mean, if you're a real fan, you just don't wanna just shut off for the rest of the season. You're just gonna say, "Well, Max is gonna win it."
Right.
Um, you have to find, and this is what is great about Formula One is if you do pay attention, if you do care about, other teams and the other just aspects of pure racing, Formula One has it all the time.
Yeah.
And it gave it to us this weekend for sure.
Yeah. No, it was a great midfield battle. I think the DRS trains are, big DRS trains, which makes it hard to pass. I think one of the heroes of the race this weekend, Kevin Magnussen, giving Nico Hulkenberg, the team strategy on that call, and him kind of
Totally.
bunching everyone else, giving Nico that chance to get a pit stop without really
Hmm.
losing too much position. Great,
Yeah.
great racing, good teamwork.
Well, great teamwork. And before I jump into that, I just it was so interesting to me the stewards' choices of giving penalties this
Oh,
week,
bro,
which then did impact Haas, of course. And but like
sure,
one level, I don't know if he know how much penalties he actually had, or
right,
I mean, he knew, I think he had to know he had something, but
yeah,
uh, you start off with like Lando Norris's, uh,
jumping, yeah.
jumping at the beginning. How in the world was that not
I It's
a
beyond me.
penalty?
It is beyond. I feel like watching it in slow mo, like he starts and then he stops and then he starts again, and maybe they feel like because he
Yeah,
came to a full stop, but then he's off his marks.
right,
So
exactly.
like to not give that penalty and then give Magnussen not one, but 2 10-second penalties.
Right,
What?
and the 1 10 second for, like, the one of the passes or whatever
Right.
it was just like, I think everybody was like, "What? Who?"
Yeah. No, it absolutely ridiculous.
But
Yeah.
to your point, though, it was great to see him, Magnuson and Hulkenberg obviously haven't had the warmest of
No.
history,
No.
and I know Haas has just been kinda struggling, so it was on a number of levels was wonderful to see them, fighting as a team, playing it as a team,
Yeah.
actually getting up there and getting after it, and, yeah, just well done, Haas. I,
Yeah.
didn't have a lot
Yeah.
high hopes for them, but with them being an American team, you're like, "Okay,
Come
geez,
on.
you
Yeah.
made some good decisions."
Yeah. No, it was a good strategy calling. They're saying the car is better on tires. That's where, because in qualifying again, we're seeing the Haas's running really fast,
Yeah,
um, qualifying well, but then tire degradation has been a problem in last season, and they're saying that they're getting better results out of their tires. But it was just fun to see that. And Magnussen, he is not an easy guy to pass.
no,
He's super good at defending, which makes for excellent racing.
right.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I think I heard a interview with, Ollie who was driving for Ferrari, and him saying something to the effect of like, Haas was holding me back and like they shouldn't have, or but it was just showing just their experience and being able to actually manage races and get
Right,
in the right positions, and that just only comes with time on the track and learning how to be a better better your racecraft, which
right,
was fun to see with those guys.
right. Well,
Yeah,
and
hope
for
that they can keep fighting.
no, I agree. I think it'd be awesome to see more of that. For those of you maybe newer to Formula One, there's 10 teams, 2 cars per team. And so it's the weirdest sport in that you have teammates, but they actually compete with each other. And a lot of that competition it creates some unique tension both on and
Mhm.
off the track. And one of the most famous rivalries was actually Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, back in the day with Mercedes, and they were childhood friends, and basically their friendship dissolved over the fact that they were teammates and competing with each other, and got a bit testy. And so to see Nico and Kevin working together like this was pretty good.
Mhm.
Um, on the other hand, another team that caught my attention this week was Williams. We're not Logan Sargent, our lone American on the grid. Uh, no real huge expectations that he'll perform well. Finished 15th this week, but of course Williams has a decent car. Alex Albon's pulling some good results out of the car.
He's impressive. Man, I actually listening to him talk last night, doing a late night bathroom remodel at my house. I'm getting a lot of my podcasting done at night.
Yeah,
Um, and it's interesting just hearing him talk, and I think just his level of confidence, when he came in at Red Bull,
right.
too early. They didn't give him enough time to develop and cook, and ultimately, um, he's come back and he's a great racer. I think his stock is super high. But it's interesting to hear him talk about. He was like, I got a bunch of offers. It's silly season's coming up. A lot of changes are happening this year. So he didn't say like I'm not going anywhere, but he did really talk about, and of course every driver maybe says this to a certain degree before they have a deal, but he's like, I'm loving where, Williams is going. I'm
Yeah,
loving the progression of the car.
yeah, yeah,
I'm loving just where the team is really kind of leaning into things. They're putting a lot more resource into,
right.
systems and
Yeah,
things back at the base. Yeah, it's a great car. It's typically really fast.
yeah,
And sometimes has some interesting, issues with wind and stuff like that too that has messed it up. So which didn't necessarily maybe hit it as much as he maybe would have thought at this track. So yeah, I'm excited to see where Williams goes. I've always been a huge fan just because of them being, one of the originals and having
yeah.
so much history there. So yeah, I like Albon, I like Williams, um, and I'm excited to see how much more they can do.
Yeah, I agree. There's some great team radio conversation. Great because it's entertaining. Not great for Logan Sargent, but at one point in the race, his pace was better than Alex, and he was behind Alex, and basically asked the engineer, "Hey, can I race? Can I race Alex? Can I go for it?" And they said, "No, if Alex is in front of you, you're not racing him," because of course they don't want to risk putting any cars in the wall, let alone both of their cars. But you have a situation like that. It's going to be frustrating as a driver to go feel like you can do more, but then team orders are no, just stay where you are. Don't take any unnecessary risks. And it's early in the season. We'll see how that plays out as we
Yeah,
keep going through the season.
that's an interesting one for me. I mean, I can understand it completely, and they obviously have a a number one driver that they're looking at Albon, which is normally better. Always I think has always been better really. But but yeah, you can only imagine maybe what kind of friction that's going to build inside the team, and I mean Sargent's got to realize his place in a lot of ways though too. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, great to see them fighting, and um, I still can't believe that we're talking about like an Alpine, not fighting in that mid pack. I mean, like, I don't want to
dude.
take your
I
take your
so
agenda here, but like I'm thinking like we're talking about them up higher, and that's usually not Haas.
right.
What? Okay, and now we got Alpine. Where did they go? Where?
Right, right. Well, 13th place finish for Ocon, um, which is it's not horrible.
No.
However, I mean, and then I was texting Micah right before the race, and we were like making our predictions, and he said, "Oh, who's going to DNF?" And I was like, "Well, definitely one of the Alpines." And on the formation lap, they run into mechanical issues, don't even finish one lap of the race, and Gasly is out. That's just and a subsequent fallout. It has been led to major changes over in the Alpine box. Like
Right.
there's a lot, and back at the factory as well.
Yeah, they're totally. I mean, yeah, Ocon had a decent race, um, but yeah, I don't know what's. I keep going back to, is it Ryan Gosling or what,
Uh,
Ryan Reynolds or somebody like
Ryan
that?
Reynolds, yeah,
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 like
yeah.
everybody
Reynolds,
owning part of
yeah,
that team, and you
yeah.
wonder how many of those new buyers, new owners are like just kicking themselves for saying like, why Alpine? Like why?
Right. Yeah, they
I mean,
say there's no such thing with no bad publicity, I guess.
yeah,
So we're talking about the fact that he's involved, and
that's true.
he
That's
loves a
true.
good comeback story. So we'll see how that plays out. But
Yeah.
we'll see. Like so they said their tech director is out, their head of
Oh man.
aerodynamics is out.
Yeah. Everybody.
Just a huge reshuffle at the top of the organization. The crazy thing is, the fact that Renault just a couple of years ago were really competitive, running at the front of the pack. So this is a major slide for them.
Right.
And it's you kind of hope that they have, like what McLaren did last year, started out really bad and then are able to kind of crawl back up. Just if not for the sake of the drivers, because
Right.
man, to be stuck in a bad car for a whole season is just super frustrating.
Right. Right. Yeah.
No, that's man. Well, good stuff here in Saudi Arabia. Looking forward to Australia. We've got this weekend off, and then we head down under to Melbourne, which used to be for a long time was the season opener. So uh, it's a little odd, having the races structured the way they are or calendared the way they are. Uh, Love Melbourne though, street track. And it's a fun atmosphere. I think there's just a lively atmosphere. A couple of Australians on the grid this year, so that's fun as well. Even a reserve driver is Australian. So, any predictions? Any thoughts about the upcoming Melbourne Grand Prix?
Yeah, it is sad to, I mean, to go back and not have it be the start. I mean, it seems I get F1 trying to change things up with where they start, now,
Right,
and just even being more good on the planet. But it, like when I hear what Melbourne, I'm like, oh, is the season starting?
right,
Um,
right.
but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, great track, uh great race. I love going to Melbourne. Yeah, I think I'm just interested to see kind of how some of these uh progressions on cars start to, play out now.
Yeah,
Now we got a little break. People
right.
got some time in the cars, a couple
Yeah,
different tracks. And now is kind of, I think, when we'll see some upgrades. I would assume
right.
they'll send the cars back to base and kind of
Yep,
regroup for a little bit.
yep.
Um, so I just wonder, like, is Mercedes going to come back with something? Um, is McLaren? I've been really bummed out about McLaren's, where
Hmm.
they've been going, and so I'm like, you just kind of wonder, are we going to see some upgrades start popping them and seeing anybody change, or is it going to be just the same what we've been seeing already?
Yeah. No, I agree. Post race interview, Oscar Piastri was saying, he's Australian, and someone else was like asking him when he's going to be headed home because it's his home race, and he
Yeah,
said no, it's back to the factory for a week to take all of the data, everything they've collected from these first two races back to back, and to make the adjustments to the car. And the engineers and the team, which is hundreds of people, really, they can go off the telemetry data and everything has a sensor on it, everything is computer read, but really it's the input of the driver, it's their feedback in those meetings that makes a huge difference. And so yeah, I absolutely agree. I think they're going back to their factories, they're sitting down going, okay, what do we need to change? And part of it is that these cars can't just be technically right. They have to fit the style of the driver, their
right.
driving style. And so there's that bridge that they have to build. And you figure the first couple of races and in preseason testing as well. That's what they're trying to figure out. I mean,
Yep.
preseason testing in Bahrain, they're putting in dozens of laps just so they can learn, hey, have we gotten it close? So I agree. I think Melbourne will be interesting. It'll be I'm really curious to see how the Ferraris perform in Melbourne. I think they're just right on the edge of some breakthroughs and
Yeah.
and maybe even giving the Red Bulls maybe a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's wishful thinking, but it'd be fun to see that.
Yeah, I agree. I know it's interesting to see the Mercedes coming back to them, just the porpoising that they're back into, just to your point of trying to figure out, I mean, all the telemetry, all of their data, I'm sure didn't
Yeah,
have anything to show with porpoising, and now all of a sudden that's, back to a certain extent with them. And um, if they can get that right, I wonder if they'll bump back, and looking at George being, a little better than Lewis these days. But um
right,
yeah, so whether or not, yeah, Ferrari can kind of make some tweaks, I would love to see that. I'd love to see Mercedes get back up into the mix. Of course, Aston has been doing very well, and I don't think
right.
that's a fluke. So, yeah,
No,
I think it's interesting. I think we'll start seeing a little bit of the running order maybe start to pan out a little bit out of there. But excited to see some upgrades and some changes happening, and
good.
hopefully the stewards get it a little bit better this week, or that week, in a couple
Oh
of weeks, like I
man,
said.
yeah.
Um,
No, for sure. I'm hoping that we don't have an FIA fiasco this year with the calling of penalties and all of that, the consistency. They just need to get this right. Like
right.
it's just frustrating. Podium in Melbourne.
I mean, I want to be like the guy that says something other than Max Verstappen, but I'm going to be honest. If I'm going to actually give a prediction that I think is actually going to happen, I don't think there's going to be any different than Max Verstappen on
Yeah.
P1.
Okay.
What about you?
Same thing.
Yeah,
Max on in P1.
I mean, you wore the hat just
I
to,
did. I wore that. I think P2. I'm gonna say Oscar Piastri. I'm gonna root for the Aussie. I'm gonna say Oscar. He performed really well in Jeddah. He's been driving really
okay.
good.
Wow.
And then Sergio in third. That's
Okay.
my yeah.
Could you that'd be a stellar podium for him at his home race.
Right?
That'd be cool.
Right?
That'd be cool.
I'd love to see an Aussie on the podium. Um, yeah,
Yeah. So I'll go Max P1. I think I think Sainz is going to come back, if he comes back from, I don't know how long an appendicitis surgery keeps you out.
yeah.
But if
No,
he
he should
comes
be
back,
good.
I think he'll be coming back for vengeance. I think he's gonna this year, just keep pushing it because he wants to show everybody that Ferrari made a bad decision.
Yep.
So I could see him coming back, missing a race, just feeling bummed. I mean, he was back at the track, after that surgery, and
Day
just
of
walking
the
around.
race. Yeah.
Like, golly.
Yeah.
So I think Sainz will get P2, and then I'm gonna go Alonso P3. I
Okay.
I, I think I think he'll keep dominating.
Good stuff. Well, let us know if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know in the comments what you think your prediction is. Um, thanks for joining us on the F1 Starting Grid podcast. It's awesome to be with you guys. Um, like, follow, subscribe, all the things. You know what to do. Share it with your friends, and we'll catch you next time after the Australian Grand Prix.
See you guys.